confronting Christian nationalism event tonight. But right now we have the chance to have a conversation with John Flood, who is running for the Pennsylvania State House of Representatives and in District 87 in central Pennsylvania. John, thank you for being next to the bus with us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So John, let's fast forward for a second.
Okay.
Imagine it's November 6th.
Okay.
How do you feel? What are you happy that you accomplished? What are you proud of? What's going on?
Well, I think if I would be the most proud of the fact that we've had the opportunity to talk to literally hundreds, if almost thousands of people in our community and talk about the issues that are really critical to them. Reproductive choice, getting a minimum wage, a living wage for the people who work here.
Yep.
And just kind of building momentum for building change for our community. You know, we've had Republicans who's owned kind of some of these seats for 40 years. And, but things haven't changed. And so people are hungry for that change. And I think we're getting that word out that we can make a difference if we work together.
Yeah.
And of course, it's the Pennsylvania State House. We have a 1-seat majority for the Democrats. And we are, the Senate is controlled by 4 seats.
Wow.
So it's very slim. And so, we need to keep this house because we need to kind of keep the momentum going. We just passed historic legislation for increase in school funding. And that's another big one that we've always had a challenge with in Pennsylvania. So it's another thing. So we can we want to make sure that we don't roll back. We move forward.
Yep. How did you come to decide to run for State House? I mean, there's so many positions you could run for.
Right.
What is it about State House that
it's kind of a funny thing. Like I said, if you'd asked me 3 years ago that I'd be doing this, I would have told you you're nuts. But when last year, we had the Moms for Liberty tried to take over my son's school. She was calling, and I, as the father of a transgendered son, I decided I'm not going to tolerate that.
Yeah.
So I decided to run as a write-in candidate. I got a late start, so I ran as a write-in candidate for school board. And I garnered nearly 1,000 write-in votes, including many Republicans, because they didn't like the direction the schools were going. Yep. With the showing, the Democratic Party was very excited and asked me, would I run? Initially, I said no. But after I started talking it over with my wife and my friends, and we started thinking to ourselves, where the real power is not in our school district. It's not in our school boards. Yeah. It is in that state. It's in the Capitol. Yeah. And so, there I decided I can make a big difference by fighting for my son and fighting for other people. There.
Yeah. One of the things we talk about at Vote Common Good all the time is that ever since conservatives took the Supreme Court, the front lines of the culture war shifted to school boards and state legislatures.
Yes, it has.
So where are you seeing Christian nationalism kind of sprout and take root in the legislature here in Pennsylvania?
Well, we have one of our state senators, Doug Mastriano, who ran for governor, is one of the biggest leaders of Christian nationalism in the state. His agenda has been, putting 10 Commandments in schools, these kind of radicalized kind of things, which are
tackling the really big issues.
Exactly. When we have school districts like Harrisburg School District and Mechanicsburg School District in my area, which had deficits of $9, $10, $12 million because the state wasn't funding their schools. And so it's, fortunately, I think we've done a good job of combating it in Pennsylvania, but I think especially in our rural areas, though, school boards are really where the battle is taking place at. Because, we had a lady who was running, who was the vice chair of the Moms for Liberty, who I was trying to get out of the school, blocked from getting on the school board, but she did win. Book bans, just kind of like wanting to get rid of, saying that teachers were teaching CRT in our schools, which of course they're not. Against any kind of DEI kind of improvements or any kind of cultural and
I don't know, teaching history.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was, their actions there kind of prompted me and said, as a veteran, I couldn't sit back and not do something. And so this is naturally kind of where we're at here.
Now, you mentioned that you're a veteran. You served in the Navy. Now you work in a data job.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just a regular guy.
I am.
You're not a career politician.
I am not a career politician.
What about campaigning has surprised you? What's been different than what you expected? What give folks like a little window into what it's like.
I love knocking doors. I love talking with people.
Yeah.
And even though I'm an introvert by nature, it was still, it's being able to have real conversations with people is so exciting.
Yeah.
It's really neat because I think people are excited, especially when they talk and realize that you're just a common dude. You know, you're not some kind of, you're not born with a silver spoon in your mouth. You're just a guy working and doing the same things that we do. The part that I don't like is obviously the calling up people and asking for money.
Dialing for dollars.
Dialing for dollars.
Yeah.
But you know that I think is with any politician.
Yep.
Just hates that because and I for me I think one of the things also that we hear a lot about in our community is and it was kind of new that I didn't realize about was realizing about the districting practices in the state of Pennsylvania and how districting is controlled by whoever has the majority in the House.
Yep.
And so what we end up with is, you know, 1 year we'll have a gerrymandered district, you know, and the Republicans will control it for 20 years, and then the Democrats will do it, and we'll control it for 20 years. And, you know, a lot of people are tired of that, and they want fair districting, which is kind of like nonpartisan. Let's let people, let's have it balanced. So, you know, based upon this, so we get a fair voice for everybody.
Yes.
And something I didn't know much about until I actually started running. I'm like, wow, this is a good idea. And so,
Yeah, that's great. John, we ask voters to use the common good as their voting criteria. And we ask people like you that are running for office to use the common good as your governing criteria if you'd be elected. And you're one of our candidates for common good. When you hear that phrase common good, how does that resonate with you? What does that mean to you?
Well, I think it's something that we've lacked in politics is politicians who are looking out for the average man and thinking about, you know, I think about the guy who's working the warehouse job over in my district, making $12-14 an hour. And what can I do to help him? Because understanding that, when gas goes up 40 cents a gallon, that has a real impact to his day-to-day lives. And we don't talk about those issues. We don't talk about, you know, living wages. We don't talk about, you know, good paying jobs. We think, we got 500 jobs in the community. But if they're making $12 an hour, we're not really helping these people build that generational wealth. And so for me, it's about, you know, what can I do to raise the standard of living for everybody in our community? And just doing something and having a government that works for people rather than for a corporation.
And those economic issues, those kitchen table issues that they talk about, so tremendously important. But it's also kind of personal for you too, right? Like you mentioned, you've got a son who's trans, and you know you've got a daughter, and you know, to see people whose rights are not being expanded, but are actually being taken away.
And you know, and just, you know, I'll share. My wife is Puerto Rican, so my daughters are half Puerto Rican and half white. But one of the things, and we live in a nice neighborhood, but my daughter was at a Target, and she had somebody come up, because she's darker complexion, had somebody come up and say, I can't, and this is right after Trump got elected, and I can't wait till he sends you back to where you came from. You know, and it's like, and I had my 24-year-old daughter crying to me saying, this was mean. Why did he say this? And it's like, you know, I was born in the Navy Hospital in San Diego. You know, it's like, really? And it's, how do we change the language that we're using to understand that we are all human beings and that we are all worthy of things? I mean, you know, I was listening to a podcast, and there was a rabbi on there, and he was talking about the Talmud and how in 39 times in the Talmud, the most frequent thing they talk about is being kind to the strangers. And so it's like, you know, when we talk about that and how we are all strangers to each other, and it's really about, you know, the notion of, am I my brother's keeper? And do I have a responsibility for your well-being as well as everybody else who's listening to this? And to me, my answer is yes. That's what my faith teaches me. You know, I mean, it was, you know, think about Christ when Jesus was talking about the 2 commandments, you know, love the Lord thy God, and then love your neighbor as yourself. I mean, these are the 2 promises. That's what he talked about. He said, this is what we believe in.
That's great. That's great. how can folks find you if they want to learn more? If they want to donate, so you spend less time on the phone.
Yeah, they can go to my website, which is www.johnfloodforpa.com.
John Flood 4 spelled out.
FOR.
FOR.
P-
Okay.
PA.com.
Okay.
Yep.
JohnFlood4PA.com. They can smash the donate button there. They can find your social media and follow
Exactly.
along.
Yeah, and I've got a Facebook page. I'm on TikTok and John Flood for P87 there. But I do have a good followers on there. So I do frequently post on TikTok, just kind of talking about what we're doing.
John, I don't know. Middle-aged white guys. I'm not so sure we should be on TikTok.
I know. I know. My daughter laughs at me because I don't know. I have to ask her.
Good for you.
What am I doing here?
Yeah, good for you. That's awesome. So, folks need to follow you on TikTok and everywhere else. And John, thank you so much.
No problem.
Thanks for running. Thanks for being a candidate for Common Good. And best of luck to you.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate all that you guys are doing too.
Thanks.
This makes a difference.
Yeah. Thank you.